Welcome to Auto Off Topic. How are you, Brad?
I'm well, Andrew. I'm well. How are you today?
Good. How's
Excellent.
the weather out there? We haven't done this in a while.
We haven't talked about the weather in a while. It's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not to the point yet where it's unbearable like all the time. Like it's still nice at night. Like it's actually perfect weather right now to when the sun starts going down, take out one of the old cars and go for like a windows down, kind of cruise around. It's probably the temperature's in the 80s, but it's real dry, so it's just a nice it's a nice like I really like spring here in Phoenix. It's a really nice time. It's a little warm in the day, but it's fine. You're working anyway, so just working in an office. And then at nighttime, it's beautiful outside. So it's nice. Spring here is a fun season. So
We're in the transition period here. Last week it was in the 60s. This week it's starting to be in the 70s, and next week it's going to be in the 80s. So we're getting right into that hot and humid summer.
perfect. And
And
I'll be there to visit just in time.
all of the trees are exploding pollen everywhere. Uh, my cars are yellow. I wash them, then they're yellow.
Yeah, we don't have the yellow here, but we definitely have pollen in the air. So
Yeah, my
allergies are still. Ugh.
I'm sneezing my head off. It's horrible. I sneezed into my mask in a store because I was in a store. I don't know what the problem. Like, do I pick it up and sneeze into my elbow? Do I keep it on and sneeze into my elbow? So I just sneezed into my elbow. I was like, I
All
just
right.
want to get out of the store now because it's gross. So on that
It's
note,
not. That's probably not as bad as burping into the mask. That's probably the worst.
I guess anyway, um, sounds like we're getting out of it. So I know you're coming by. You're coming in this weekend. We're actually going to go up to Southern New Hampshire Cars and Coffee, right?
That's the plan.
So yeah, this is going to drop. Should be come out Friday before the Cars and Coffee will be in. It's in Derry, New Hampshire, at the Motor Loft. Just
Yeah, I
go on
haven't been to
Facebook.
the.
Yeah,
I
I
haven't
haven't
been
been
to
to
the
that
new
one.
location yet. So
I haven't either. Just go on Facebook if you're local and look up Southern New Hampshire Cars and Coffee. It'll tell you exactly where it is. But it is on Sunday, and I believe it starts at 8 in the morning. I don't think it starts at 9. I'm pretty sure it starts at 8.
okay. Oh, we'll
But
look it up for sure. We're gonna
it's
have
up on
a
Facebook. Yeah, just go look for it.
we're gonna have a scramble the day before probably. So
Why is that?
well, because I want to get the Camaro out.
Oh, you want to bring it up there?
Yeah, that's the plan. I want to get the Camaro out. I want to slap some tires on it and take it for a ride. So
Well,
fingers crossed.
if not, I got extra stuff.
Yeah, well, I'd really like to drive the Camaro while I'm there. So, and the plan is to do it as much as possible and take it up there. So, provided we still have gas to buy. So,
We're doing fine here. So it turns out they reassured everybody on the news too. I mean, actually, gas price hasn't really gone up here. Um, a lot of our fuel comes from they put it on tankers and they bring it in to Boston, the port, or it comes up from or it comes out of Nova Scotia and down.
okay,
So we are kind of independent from that pipeline. That pipeline ends in New Jersey,
okay.
but
I know the Southeast U.S. has been pandemonium the past few days.
yeah, we're fine here. It's not a big deal.
Well, I know I didn't. I just actually just filled my car, and it was I don't know what's regular there right now, cost wise.
The gas station I can see from my house, I think it's Sunoco, so a little bit more expensive sometimes. I think it's like $2.85.
Okay, so that's exactly what it is here. I just filled the Jetta with diesel for like 282 or something like that. So
I think it's like 350 for 93, maybe because I put 93 in the Volkswagen. It's turbo.
yeah, so it sounds like it's pretty similar to here. It's not as out of control as other places in the country right now.
Yeah, well, um, you know, panic buying ended up making a gas shortage, in my opinion. But
Oh, it definitely did. It's just like the false, not to get too into the whole thing, but it's just like the
toilet paper.
false toilet paper shortage last year. Like there was only a shortage because people bought 5 times what they needed. So
So
dumb, whatever.
anyway, you've been working on cars, right?
Kind of. Some that aren't mine, some that are.
I'll do mine. I've been doing a bunch of stuff actually because
Okay.
I got So we talked about the Montero had a recall, the airbag,
Yep.
which is insane to me. Like my dad thought I was crazy when I was telling him this. That he's like, "What? The truck's like so old. There's an airbag recall." I'm like, yeah, it's new. So I'm still friendly with the people over at the Mitsu dealer. So I dropped off last Friday, and then I had the wheels I got from Japan for the G20, and I had the tires come in the day before. And when I made the appointment for the recall, I said, "Hey, if I leave the tires and wheels in the back of the truck, can you mount them for me?" They're like, "Sure." So I picked the truck up. They had them all mounted. They only charged me like $60 to mount 4 tires and wheels.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that was cool. So I haven't really taken any like too many pictures of it because I still need to buff the car out. But threw them on, fit great, look really cool. I might take the center caps off. They're like super easy to just pull off.
They
And
stick out kind of far too, right?
they stick out kind of far. They're cool looking, but I'm afraid somebody will take them
Okay.
because you could just grab them and pull them off. Um, and I gotta check. I think there's enough clearance to the CV axles because you can buy just blank plastic ones
Yeah,
like
just
on
measure
eBay.
the millimeter.
Yeah, and just they're just blank plastic. Just pop them in, and there's black, and then they won't be hard to like pull off unless you pop
Does
them up from behind.
that have actual Watanabe center caps that have like the little birds on them or whatever?
No, these are black racing version. So
Oh, okay.
they say black racing spirit of circuit.
Okay.
So they're kind of
Which is
cool. Like
cool.
I
Yeah.
don't want to lose them. So I
No,
might
I agree
take
with
them
that.
off just to save them. Um, but yeah, they look really cool. And then I had all the other parts to like lower it. So I worked on that, and I was up to like 1 in the morning the other night putting the stuff in because I was also doing some videos on it. Um, so the rears, it's weird. It's literally like a GD body Impreza or WRX.
Yeah, when you showed me the rear strut, I thought it was a front strut.
Yeah, it looks just like a front strut. It would
Yeah.
probably be a front strut on a different car. Um, and because in Japan you could get a 4-wheel drive version of this car.
I did know that, yes.
Yeah, that's probably why. Because
Okay.
it would allow the axle to pass underneath.
Right, so it
You
has like
can go
normal
to
like
knuckle.
knuckle kind of thing in the
Yeah.
rear, like a front.
So I took them apart, and the rears were definitely replaced before, but with foreign auto part ones. And I noticed right away when I was doing the brakes, they didn't have any bump stops. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. That probably means they're blown. And when
Yeah,
I was taking them
more than
apart,
likely.
yeah, and when I was taking them apart, I was looking at them. The date stamp on the struts, like the manufacturing date, was like 2011. It's like, all right. So took them out.
So they
Also
were
annoying, like an Impreza, you have to take out the back seat to get the tops. But
so they were
whatever.
installed without bump stops, which
Hmm.
obviously shortened their life, as we discussed on the podcast before with my conversation about my old Eagle Talon.
Yeah. It's either that or, well, actually, they weren't leaking. So, yeah, I don't know. But they like didn't have any gas charge left when I finally took the spring off. I just pushed the piston down and they never came back. Like, you could hear fluid kicking around in there, but no gas charge. Which
Interesting.
I don't know. I don't know how much the gas charge does for dampening versus just the oil, but it must do something.
It does a lot more of a rebound, doesn't it?
It must, because it must help it slow it down coming back, or I don't know exactly. Um, Never really looked into it. But the annoying thing is that I took it apart. I did one side. I do one inside at a time, and I realized that the only reason why I had to disassemble them because otherwise I tried to buy upper top hats and stuff to just swap them over because that would have been a lot easier than trying to just like it would have been a lot easier to just build the new strut outside the car and then just swap it out than to have to take it out and use my
Yeah, no
spring
question.
compressor. Because I did buy a nice new spring compressor, which worked way better, way more sturdy. And it was a good thing I'll tell you about when I get to the fronts. So I took them apart, and the top hats that I needed to save. So, of course, I'm working on the left hand side. Nope, sorry, I'm working on the right hand side. And the one I pull out has an L stamped on it. I'm like, well, that L is probably not stamped on there by accident. This probably is supposed to go on the left hand side, and I just pulled it out of the right hand side. So whoever took this apart before did it wrong. Because they are, when you read the service manual, there isn't an orientation to the way these springs go, because they basically sit not perfectly straight up and down off of the strut. The perch hangs out towards the outside of the car, because if the spring sat perfectly centered on the strut, you'd hit the body. So it's like basically pushed to the outside. And the
Okay.
way the seat sits is it holds the spring more towards the outside and lets the upper mount sit in the middle of it. It's offset. And there's markings that tell you when you take this apart, put this mark faces to the inside of the car when you reassemble it,
So it sounds
or
like
right
somebody
or left.
just slammed it all together real fast.
Yeah, because the top of the struts have a key, a flat spot. So luckily they didn't bust the key off of these upper plates. It was still had the flat spot. But the upper mounts, they literally just hammered on and were completely rounded out. Probably because they put them together wrong and realized they didn't fit right and had to spin them around, I'm sure, because they weren't paying attention. So those were definitely junk. I'm glad I bought new ones. But luckily, I was able to get it. So now that mark faces out, it doesn't face in the car, but they're kind of like mirror images, those plates. So it worked. I was able to put it together and have it face the right way and have the spring not sit crooked or anything. So the rears, put them on new bump stops. I chopped a little bit off the bump stops like the springs said to do for lowering springs. And the rears, they're so much lower. Well, it's only like an inch lower. I didn't even need to compress them to put them back on. I just pushed them down and there was enough threads to grab. So that made that part easy. I did realize one of the rear lower control arms though was rotted that I didn't notice before.
Yeah, it had a hole right in the middle of it.
Well, it was rusty, but I thought that hole was part of like the casting, because sometimes like like a long control arm like that would have like a hole in the middle of it,
Sure.
like an oval shaped hole, but it's literally like rotted through like an oval hole. Um, they're really cheap. All four were like $130 because there's four. There's a front one and a rear one, but they're the same. So identical left and right. So I'm just gonna do all four, and hopefully there's the big long bolt that goes through them, just like a Subaru. It seemed to be loose and not loose, but it seemed to want to spin and would come off. So uh, I'll do that eventually. I got some new OTC jack stands for a really good price that have like deep V's for the pinch welds, so I don't have to use Harbor Freight stuff.
Yeah. Absolute death freight.
Um, so anyway, I get to the front, and this thing's weird because it's got a multi-link front suspension. So it's got a big knuckle with a kingpin. So there's like a bearing on top of it, and then they call it the third member. It like goes up and comes up to a upper link that's on the inner fender. So it's not like a double wishbone, but sort of like a double wishbone, but only like
It,
half of the wishbone.
you can almost describe it as like a reverse knuckle, almost, because it comes off the strut housing, right?
No, it comes off of the knuckle. So
Oh,
like,
okay. So it's like an
all right.
inverse of itself almost.
So you know what the front of a second gen Eclipse looks like with that
Sure.
big hooked piece that comes up from the knuckle, or like a Honda is the same way basically. Front wheel drive Honda. Well, yeah, a front wheel drive Honda has the two fork pieces that come down from the strut that go to the lower control arm. One with
I
double
don't think I've
wishbone.
ever worked on one, but
You built a
I
model
can.
kit of one with like a double wishbone,
Yeah, it's like I don't remember, but sure, I know what a double wishbone suspension looks like theoretically. Yes.
like a Miata.
Yep.
Same deal. So instead of having a big cast piece of steel that comes off the knuckle, this is a stamped piece of steel that's really wide. And the strut that looks like a rear strut fits inside of it.
Okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
noticed the strut looked like a rear strut because it has just like the threads on top and an eye hole, like an eyelet in the bottom.
yeah, it
I thought that was
doesn't.
strange.
That's the thing. These struts. So the thing with this, the strut does not move. It's not like McPherson. So the upper mount does not have a bushing or a bearing in it. It doesn't move. It doesn't turn with the steering. It stays
Huh.
fixed,
So because it goes
just like
into
a
the
double wishbone.
housing. All right, it goes into the housing that turns.
Yeah.
So okay,
No, the housing doesn't turn. That big stamp piece of steel stays rigid too. The knuckle turns on the lower control arm, and the kingpin that goes into this big piece that goes up to hold it.
oh, so it's kind of old school style.
Yeah, it's literally called a kingpin. Yeah.
Yeah, neat.
So that was like, that might be a little complicated. I've never done one of these. It was really easy. You just undid the lower bolt, undid the upper bolt. The thing flopped over. Undo the 3 bolts at the top for the strut. Pulled it out. The thing that was tricky, and I'm glad I bought that nice compressor. They put a hell of a lot of spring on this thing. Like, yeah, I put I put not cut springs, but lowering springs that were like a few inches shorter. But the spring that came off of this like strut unit was like 4 inches longer than the entire strut unit. Like, usually when you decompress a spring, it's like a couple inches taller. This was like comically larger than what was on there. And again, these front ones were original and totally dead. Like, they had fluid, but like no charge left.
Was the front one you showed me? You just pushed down and kind of left it there.
All of them
It never
were
popped
the
back
same
up at
way.
all.
None of them pop back up after
Okay.
pushing them down. So I had to recompress the lowering springs just a little bit, but again, these also had an orientation to them. Set them all back up, new bump stops, trimmed a little bit, put it back together. The only thing that the lower control arm fell down a little bit, it actually pulled the axle out, not out of the transmission, but out of the drive cup. So I just put it in neutral and like pushed it up and like turned it, and it popped back in. I was like, sweet. Put it all back together. The cool thing is, so when you lower a car like this on this type of suspension, it doesn't change the camber
Okay, it just goes straight up
because
and down.
the camber change would be in the upper control arm and
Okay,
not the strut like a McPherson strut.
so because that whole assembly stays rigid, that just kind
Yeah,
of
the car
stays as is.
none of the alignment changed in the car. It might need some toe adjustment, maybe, but nothing really changed. So took it out. It rides great, like so much better, and it looks cool. It's like definitely. So the thing with this car, there's only like, you either have the choice to spend money on tine springs or coilovers, and that's it.
Which is the same issue with a lot of cars of that era right now, it seems.
Yeah. Which, if I was going to keep the car indefinitely, probably would have sprung for coilovers. But since I'm not sure if I want to keep the car, the lowering springs and the tine springs, the tine springs and the KYB struts, perfect.
Yep.
Like, I'm really happy with the way it rides.
And it's probably a
Uh,
third of the price of a full set of coilovers.
yeah, it was like $400.
Yeah,
Um,
can't really beat that.
it looks good. It got rid of enough of the wheel gap that looks cool. It's not slammed to the fenders, but it's more of a period correct, like, inch of wheel gap instead.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I would definitely. You were asking me about doing this for your Eclipse. I would recommend it. Do the same thing
Yeah,
because you're
because
not sure if you
the
want to keep
same
the car.
package
Yeah,
is the same package is available, and it's the same thing. It's like it's $400 or so for the whole setup with four new struts and four new springs, versus $1,300 for the decent set of coils. So
and the thing is, the tines are set up for they're a few inches lower, or like an inch and a half lower. But when you read their specifications, it's for they run the stock spring rate,
mhm. So it
so
should ride like factory almost.
it basically rides like factory.
Yeah. So it's probably what I'll do, and it probably tightens the car up a lot too.
Oh
So
yeah, and then even with new tires, it's much better. So also my ABS light still comes on. So my dad and I were doing some more checking of that, but we're pretty confident it's just the sensor, and I'll just replace it in a little bit. I don't feel like it. Just wasn't. It felt better to spend money on nice tires because the car really needed tires instead. So,
Right.
and also struts and shocks. So,
It made a much bigger improvement with a little bit more money. And if you decide that you want to make the effort to change the ABS sensor out later, you still can.
which I will. I'll just do it later.
Yeah.
I'd rather do some other
Cool.
stuff.
Well, I'm stoked that I'm going to be there next week because I want to drive this thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it drives really nice. It's a
I think I want
nice
to help you
car.
try to fix that fender too a little bit, maybe while I'm
Yeah.
there. Maybe make that a priority project. Saturday is going to be car project day. I think when I first get there, I want to just start getting into some stuff to get it done and get it out of the way. So
hmm
we're going to rebuild the brake calipers on the Saab
Rebuild them or
because,
swap them.
well, the plan was to swap them, and I
Uh-oh.
ordered them and didn't get them. So they were in stock and then out of stock.
Weird.
So yeah, I don't have any.
Ooh, that reminds me. I need to send mine back for course.
I can get brand new front calipers from O'Reilly's same day if I need them. But as far as the rears go, it's rebuild or send them out somewhere to be rebuilt. I don't have that kind of time. So everybody's telling me it's not a hard job. So I have the Rock Auto rebuild kit, and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, it just needs fronts, and I can buy them at O'Reilly's. So
Yeah.
either way, I'm not worried about it. It is what it is. I want to get that car going. It's going to need a battery, probably a couple other minor little things, clean it up a little more, and take some pictures, and maybe we'll see it on Rad for sale in a week or two.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the plan for it. Get out of my dad's driveway.
Yep.
So while I do that, we got to do tires in the Camaro. We'll talk about that when I'm there, and some stuff on the yellow Colt that's in the driveway. So it'll be a fun little slamming things together day on Saturday, I think, is the plan. So, but yeah, do you have any other project car updates? Or you're moving on to me here.
I did finally do the rear brakes on 70s Crosstrek, but yeah, that was interesting because the car only, like I said, 36,000 miles on it. Rear pads were at 3 mil. New pads were 8 mil. So it was pretty low.
But you think that's from the aggressive hill hold, though, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Because it drags them every time you stop the car on a hill, and you guys live in an area where there are plenty of hills.
So turned it off and swapped them out. So it should be good. Trying to think
Excellent.
of anything else I did. I know we moved cars around in the garage at my dad's house so we can get my mom's car, the Beetle.
Yep.
To do the, pull the tank out of it so we can clean the tank. It should be pretty straightforward because it'll just come right out of the frunk.
It's getting to be the time of year she's going to want to drive that, so you got to get it done.
Yep.
So I did a couple of things. My rant last week about the lack of availability of crush washers. So I finally eventually ordered them on Amazon. I did make a last ditch effort to get them from Napa. And I was all excited because I called Napa and they're like, yeah, of course we have those. And I was like, oh, sweet. Like they're coming in clutch. And I was even talking to a friend of ours about it. I was like, yeah, Napa's got them. They're going to save me. No problem. So I got the Napa and he literally pulls off the shelf the same kit that I'm buying on Amazon. Right.
Yeah.
And so the kit on Amazon is $10. And he pulls it down and he's like, all right, well, these are kind of expensive. Not sure you don't want to buy them. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Sure. Expensive. Pfft, I'm probably not. He's like, yeah, all right. And he pulls them out and he looks them up. I won't tell you to guess. I think I already told you what they cost, right?
Yeah.
Napa has the audacity to charge $8.99 per crush washer. Per.
Yeah. For something that's literally a penny with a hole punched in it.
The 300 count box, which again is the same one that he pulled off his shelf to take them out of for me, is $10. Like it doesn't make any sense. Why? I thought they'd be expensive. Like I thought he might charge $1 or $2 a piece, and I would have bought them. But I needed 4 of them, and 4 at $9 plus tax is like $43. I'm spending $43 for 4 crush washers.
That's some stupid like parts matrixing crap. Like
it's ridiculous. Why do they even stock them? I was wondering if maybe it was supposed to be like $8.99 for like the little baggie of all of the 12 millimeter ones. But no, thank you.
I remember It's just like a stupid thing that dealerships do. But I went into our computer when I was made the parts manager, and I turned it off at a certain level. Like it wouldn't couldn't turn it off completely because the owner would get mad at me. But for parts up to a certain price, I made it so it did not matrix the price of them because it made it stupid.
Yeah, well, $8.99 per crush washer is beyond stupid. It's actually offensive.
Yeah,
It didn't even take me 2 seconds to say no. I'm out of here. Like, I was like, dude, I can buy the whole kit for $10. He's like, I know, and I'm like, well, when you said it with a joking tone that they're expensive, I thought that you were joking. Like, I did not expect them to be, $43 for three
yeah. Why did
for
you even
four
get it
crush
off the shelf
washers.
then? What are you
Yeah,
doing?
yeah, exactly. So anyway, I did finally get them from Amazon. I did make another trip to Ace Hardware because have you ever been to the hardware section of an Ace Hardware?
Oh, they have a lot of stuff. I mean, that's why
It's
they call it Ace Hardware.
yeah, it's really good.
This podcast is brought to you by Ace Hardware.
Yeah, Ace is the place. We're helpful hardware folks. There, pay us money. Um, no, I was surprised because I don't think I've ever gone into that back section of Ace Hardware. So I just assumed it was all like a Home Depot kind of level of stuff. They have way more hardware than even a Home Depot does. They're like the middle tier between like a Fastenal and a Home Depot. They have so much stuff, and they actually sell crush washers individually for 59 cents. Unfortunately, they didn't have any metric sizes. So,
Hmm.
which is strange because they have tons of metric other things. Just they didn't have metric crush washers.
Yeah, and most American cars use metric stuff.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it was interesting to see how much automotive hardware they actually had. So I was impressed, and I will be going back there. Just not for metric crush washers, which I probably won't need for a long time now because I have 300 of them in various sizes. So hopefully I don't just run out of the one size and have to buy the same 300 kit again later, but it is what it is. So I have the crush washers. I went through the pain in the ass process of installing that fuel filter back in the Starion, which I don't know if you were there the last time I did one. I think it was on one of the red cars. Um, it's not an easy one to do. The bottom hose, the feed line, is pretty much like less than an inch between that and the frame rail. So there's not
Yeah,
enough room to get a anything beyond like a wrench in there.
it's like
And
trying to
then
do a DSM one. They're like on the firewall.
yeah, and then
It's
in
like the
order
same filter. It's just
it is
like
the
it
same
goes into a
filter.
hard line. It's so annoying
And
because you got
then
to try to get it in there and spin the nut from the hard line into it.
yeah, and then it's a 19 millimeter, so obviously the wrench that you have to do it is just like, it's a baseball bat because it's a 19 millimeter. It's huge, and there's not enough room in there to actually get any kind of swing on the wrench itself. So it's a
Yeah,
huge pain in the ass to get it out of there. So I actually wound up unbolting the bracket from the fender well and turning it upside down and rebolting the bracket to the fender well, so that the bottom then became the top. So it was probably not advised, but it worked. So there was no other way I was getting it done, and I got it done. So I got that all taken care of. The reverse is equally as much of a pain in the ass, if not more, than the taking it out. The install is that much harder, but I got it done, got it all taken care of. I only ripped the skin off of 3 knuckles, so that's good. And then I went to get in the car and be like, yeah, this is going to be great because the last link in the chain, maybe it's going to make our problem go away and the car run fine. Put the key on, turn the key to on, hear the fuel pump come on, crank it to start, and nothing happens. Nothing. Like
of course.
zero. Zero happens. So I'm like, oh. So I get out of the car, I went back under the hood, and I'm like, well, maybe when I was working in there, my hands unplugged some relay or some ground cable, or I did something somewhere, and I just started looking around everywhere, and nothing at all. All right. I'll get the voltmeter out. I'll put it on the battery, see what kind of voltage it has. 11.6. So that's more than enough to start the car. It's less than 12, but it should be enough to turn the starter over.
Yeah.
So it doesn't turn over at all. Like, it doesn't even click. It doesn't make any noise at all. You hear no starter noise whatsoever. So I'm like, okay. So now I'm kind of at a loss. I was like, well, I'll throw the charger on it. Maybe it's really sensitive. Maybe the cold cranking amps are down and the voltage is fine. Who knows? So I put the charger on it for a few hours and went back out there and nothing. No crank, no nothing. So usually when a starter goes bad, it'll still click. No?
Not necessarily.
No. So the next step, which I haven't had time to do because of work, maybe after the podcast I'll go out and do it again, is do the old smash the starter with something.
You can try.
Yeah. See if it's stuck. Because I don't want to buy a starter for it. Like at all. I'm trying to remember, think about when is the point of no return. Like every time I've done something, something else has been broken. It's just chasing that run to find out what's happening. And now I'm just at a point where I'm just frustrated. So I'm not sure what the next step is, but the next step is definitely frustration. So I will, like I said, I got a big crowbar out there that I can reach starter with. I'll smash it around a few times and see if that does it. I did put the car in gear and like rock it back and forth to see if I could, bump it a little with the flywheel. Didn't seem to do anything either, but I don't know. I'm annoyed because it's like one of those things that every time we try to do something else to the car, something else breaks. Like we got it started and then the ignition coil died and then we put a coil in it and then the fuel pump died and then I put a fuel pump in it and then the tank was full of holes and then I fixed the tank and I put it all back together and then it was still not running right and I put a fuel filter in it and the car won't even crank over. It's like, oh, and in between all this, the hood cable broke too. So, yeah. So I had to take the whole front of the car apart to get the hood open last time. So I just put a piece of safety wire on the bottom of it now.
I think it's time to pull the engine. Just
call it a day.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to and don't want to. I'm just... The whole plan was to get it sorted as is before I made the attempt to swap everything over because I don't want to have another totally torn apart car in the yard, So whatever. It is what it is. I'm just generally frustrated about it right now. So hopefully smashing the starter around will do something. If it does, great. If it doesn't, then I don't even know where to go next. I'm going to say it over and over again. I'm just frustrated by it and I don't want to deal with it right now. So throw the cover back over it and look at it again in a few weeks. Gotta walk away from things sometimes, So on a positive note, I did another project the other day on somebody else's car that worked out just fine.
Oh yeah. How'd that, I didn't hear this story exactly. I just saw it on Facebook.
So a friend of a friend who I don't know very well, but I know the other friend very well. And, when he says it's a good friend of his, I'll take care of him, one of those deals.
Okay.
So he lives in Southern California. He was on a trip up to Utah. They were hiking all the national parks and doing all the adventure stuff, hiking and kayaking and, all that fun stuff, mountain biking. Mm-hmm. He's got a Jetta TDI wagon, the earlier version. So the Mark IV, I think it's an 03. He was coming out of one of the national parks and the car started shaking a lot under power. And he'd go back into, put the clutch in, I put it neutral and coast and it was fine. At any kind of steady speed, he was fine. But under any kind of acceleration, the car was like shaking and bucking a lot. He wasn't sure what it was. So he pulled over, kind of looked at everything. Made the determination that his axles were going bad. They were probably dry or busted inside or something was happening in the drive axles, either left or right. He wasn't sure because it was only on acceleration. It just felt through the whole car. So he limped the car all the way to Page, Arizona. And was like, all right, I'll get a little further. He limped the car to Prescott, Arizona, which Prescott is about 2 hours outside of Phoenix, depending on where you are. Yeah. And decided that was about it because it was getting worse and it was happening more constant. And he didn't want to have the thing blow apart somewhere between Prescott and Phoenix or Prescott and California. And there's a lot of places in that stretch of road you're driving where you don't have any cell phone reception. And there's no people and it's hundreds of degrees. So he didn't want to take that chance. So figured out I could help him out. He had to get a tow truck to tow the car from Prescott to here. He has 200 miles of AAA coverage, so that wasn't an issue. Um, the issue became AAA said they wouldn't take him; they'd only take the car
Oh,
because of COVID regulations.
yep.
So now he's like, okay, what good does that do me? Because I'm up here in Prescott. The car goes to Phoenix. How do I get to Phoenix? Like now, so my AAA is great. It pays for towing the car, but now I have to pay for a rental car. And
Yeah,
then the
right.
guy was like, "Well, why don't you just get it fixed in town?" And he's like, "Well, you don't think I didn't try that already? Like, I brought it to a shop. This was Thursday. He goes, I brought it to a shop on Thursday. He said they said they'd get a look at it when they could. They didn't look at it all day Thursday. They didn't look at it all day Friday. I'm here now at Friday at like 2 o'clock trying to get my car somewhere because I have to get home before the weekend is over in California. I can't spend, you know, 5 more days next week waiting for somebody to maybe look at my car. So I need the car out of here. I need to get it somewhere. So eventually the person on the phone is like, well, maybe when the tow truck gets there, you can convince them that you can ride in the cab. Like, wink, wink, hush, hush.
Yeah.
And he's like,
A tow truck driver don't care.
yeah. He's like, sure, send a tow truck. And the guy goes, or you can ride in your car on the back. And he's like, that sounds illegal. Yeah, that is definitely not a legal tactic to do. You cannot do that. You cannot ride in your
I've heard
car.
of I've heard of several people doing that though this year
Yeah, you're not supposed to do
because of
that.
COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've heard of people like doing it, and they look, police and tow truck drivers and all these companies looking the other way because you don't want to sit in the cab with someone. So
Well, anyway, so the tow truck gets there, and the dude's like, "Yeah, I don't care, just ride in the cab." He goes, "I happen to have another car going to Phoenix," so the tow truck driver was stoked because he's making one trip and getting double paid for it. So it turns out he had another car to bring to Phoenix that was like, 15 miles down the road at one of the dealerships here. So
okay,
he had double paid to do two tows, but it only took one tow. So anyway, he gets here. Got here probably about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So we said, "All right, well, let's go to AutoZone and we'll get some axles." So thankfully, in the west side of the country, um, car parts stores are open till midnight.
whoa, that's
Yeah,
weird.
yeah,
That's
it's
super
very
weird.
it's very weird. There's
Like,
actually
why?
I hear rumors there's a couple of 24-hour ones. Well, because people are working on cars at all hours of the night, right? So we go to
Yeah, I
this.
guess.
I mean, how convenient would it have been many times in our past to be able to go to a parts store at 11 o'clock at night?
Yeah, I mean, I've adapted to the point where I try to order everything I need beforehand.
Right. Well, we didn't have that
That
option this time.
no.
So we go there. We got there probably like 9:30. The big AutoZone in town, the big AutoZone near here that's open till midnight, has got a pretty big selection because they're one of the open late stores. So they want to have all the good stuff. So they legitimately had both axles, excuse me, in stock, left and right.
What year is this?
2003 Jetta.
But is it kind of like a Mark IV,
It is a
like
Mark IV,
shared platform?
but it's a Mark IV diesel. It's not the same as gas.
Oh,
The axles aren't
huh.
anyway, because I looked at that first because I happen to have a Mark IV in my driveway that's destined
Yeah,
for the junkyard, and I was like, oh, we can
yeah.
just steal the axles out of it. That's easy. But the part numbers on Rock Auto were different. Does that mean they're different? For sure, I don't know, but I wasn't willing to take the chance of taking that car all apart and then have them not fit. Especially where it's like I don't know the guy that well. He's a friend of a friend. I'm just doing a favor. I'm not going to take my whole car apart for no reason. So
Hmm.
anyway, they had both axles in stock, $100 a piece, totally worth it. He bought those. I also remembered to get the triple square bits because I know I don't have those because the axles are bolted in on a flange with 6 bolts, and they
That
have
does make them sort of easier, though.
makes it way easier. So they have the 6 bolt flange to get in there. So I was also under the impression that this car was a West Coast car its whole life,
Yeah.
which also makes things easy. But it turns out the car lived in Ohio until 2018. So
Oh,
somehow it still came apart. So that's good. So we got the car back here. Naomi made some dinner. We didn't start working on it until like 11 o'clock. By the time we were done eating dinner and just hanging out, shooting the breeze, we're actually at the point where we're like, maybe we'll just do it in the morning. So we said, you know what? Let's at least get it in the air, get the wheels off. Okay, let me back up a little bit. He's like, let's get it in the air and get the wheels off. And I was like, why don't we take one wheel off? And he's like, no, we'll take both off. And I was like, no, we should take one wheel off because when you go to crank those bolts, you're gonna want to have the thing so it doesn't have an open diff and it's just not gonna spin across. And he's like, it'll be fine. Okay, that's fine. So I took both wheels off, and
You put it in gear. It's manual, right?
it still was not. Something was weird. We had to put it in gear and put the wheels in the ground, on the other wheel in the ground, to make it not move.
And someone
So
can also step on the brake. So
that was also a thought we had after the fact. But listen, it's almost midnight at this point. Okay, so we're at that point. We did the one wheel at a time, but somehow, impressively enough, we had the whole job done in 3 hours. So, I mean, it's not the world's most difficult repair job,
oh, not bad, not bad.
but both axles on the ground, no lift, no air tools. I do
I
hit
feel
the
like
Milwaukee stuff.
I kind of showed you how to hustle through CV axles.
Well,
I
I,
feel like
I definitely think so, and I certainly think that also it helps that my friend is also a very good wrench, so he was. But between the two of us, it got done real fast. I'll put it that way. So the car is actually kind of neat. It has VR6 springs in the front and European towing springs in the rear, so it's got a little bit of a lift. And it had a full skid plates underneath because he takes it like camping and back roads, and so it was a really neatly set up car. It had conies all around, and it was a well done car. So, but yeah, it came apart pretty easily. Those triple squares came in key because if we hadn't bought those at AutoZone, we would have been SOL because I don't have anything that fits that bolt pattern. But short story long, he got in the car and we finished up like 2 a.m. He came in the house. I let him, crash in the guest room. He left at like 6 a.m. Was home by noon.
nice.
So yeah, success, right? It's always good to build your tank of road trip karma. That's kind of the way I looked at it. I do a lot of road trips in old cars, and I would certainly hope that somebody would do the same for me.
Well, now you got a guy in California that owes you a favor.
And I made sure he knew that when he left.
Now, I may come to your house one day with a broken car.
Yeah, exactly. So got to strategically place them up and down the West Coast. So, but 2 people that owe me a favor, because also my friend who introduced us in the first place. So it's it feels good to have a good story like that work out, So making new friends, fixing new cars, life is good.
Cool. Good project car updates. We haven't talked about any car auctions in a bit.
Not since last week.
Oh yeah, we kind of talked about it Daewoo, but
Yeah,
we had some cool stuff I'd actually buy this week. Over on Cars and Bids,
there's been some interesting things that have come up in a few places that I've been watching.
Yeah, over on Cars and Bids, there's an '89 Dodge Ram 50 custom, like mini truck.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's bad.
Oh my god,
it's awful.
It's so bad. It's good though. I would ironically drive it.
But would you buy it?
If it was cheap enough, I might buy it.
It's not going to be cheap enough. Would you buy it?
I'm looking at it right now.
If that thing sells for less than like $9,000, I'd be great. I'd be surprised.
Yeah, it's. If I had everything else I wanted, I would buy it.
Really?
I don't.
See, here's my problem with it. I'll try to describe it best as possible. It's a lot of colors.
So what?
They're all pastels or neons, nothing in between. The frame is neon blue. It's got a tilt bed. It's got a full like Irbuni body kit. The gray what's that material, Andrew? Not suede, but like I can't even think what the material name is. Anyway, it's a very 80s kind of material. Hot pink carpeting. It's definitely like if you wanted a car that was like the definition of custom Radwood era car, this is it. It's like a mini truck and cover car. It has everything that you would double wipers, Boyd style wheels, the whole nine. Um, I didn't like these when they were new. So it's hard for me to look at it in a way where I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I
That's what I
don't.
mean. It's ironically cool now. I'm into it.
Is it though?
It is.
I the hardest part for me is I didn't like them when they were new. I didn't like when this was a trendy body style or a trendy custom style.
It's so bizarre now, though. Like people would be real into it anywhere you brought it.
This is a background vehicle in like a Vanilla Ice video.
It's cool.
You need to have a dyed blonde mullet and a half shirt to drive this truck, and nobody wants to see me in a half shirt.
No,
So I don't think I should ever drive this truck. I could maybe use it if somebody's like, hey, here's the keys, go drive it. I might drive it for the laughs around the block a few times, and then be like, that was neat. I don't ever want this thing again. It's like it's got the Nickelodeon splash logos, and it's got geometric patterns, and it's got a single racing stripe down the middle. It's a checkered flag. I mean, it's bad.
I'm real into it.
Apparently, because I
That's
don't
pretty
know.
cool.
So I always have this whole issue with, that whole 30-year cycle we talk about. Things were cool, and every 30 years they come back. But if I didn't like it 30 years ago, and I guess I'm old enough now to make that decision, um, I didn't like it in 1988 when it was a thing. Why do I have to like it now?
Nobody's making you like it.
That's good because nobody's going to. I appreciate that it still exists. However, if it was mine, I would keep the basic style of it and just tone down the colors. Because the truck itself does not offend me. It's the
The whole
colors.
point of it is that it is those colors.
Yeah. I'm not. I guess I'm just.
It's not for you.
It's not for me. It's not for me. Hey,
All right.
listen. If somebody wants to win a Redwood show, it's the way to do it.
Yeah.
There's no question. I mean, I wonder when it was built and if it ever was like a cover car.
It was built, and it was a cover car when you go through the pictures. It was built in the 80s. It was actually, if you go through it, the pictures, and the seller states that it was, I read this a couple days ago, he bought it off a woman who passed away who had already customized it, and then he customized it more to make it look like this, in period.
Not recently. So this guy's owned it for a long time.
Yeah.
I'd be very interested to see what he looks like now compared to what he looked like then.
And it was in a magazine. Yeah, there's like pictures of it.
Oh yeah, yep. I'm seeing him now.
Cool. So
Trophies.
anyway,
it was in a magazine recently though, because it says
wasn't-
time. It says time capsule is the article name.
Oh, all right. Anyway, this looks pretty good for me over on Cars and Bids again. 92 Q45, 64,000 miles, which is weird because it had the engine replaced at 36,000 miles. It's got 5 days left. It's at $3,000.
That bodes well for your Q45 ownership.
Yeah. So, but it's white on tan. Super clean looking car. Belt buckle Q.
Is it a T?
It's not a T.
Belt buckle Q, for those people that don't know, is the original Q45 grill. It was no grill, and then the emblem in the middle looked like a belt buckle.
Yeah.
So, hence the name.
Pretty cool car.
I dig it. I drive it. I'm curious to see where it goes, especially with the low miles, and it looks pretty clean. So, you want to talk about some weird stuff that's happening? Rad for Sale is getting some more traction, which makes me happy because those are our friends. And looking at it the past few weeks, there were a couple of times I looked at it and was like, oh, doesn't seem to be a lot of stuff going on here. Stuff seems to be going pretty inexpensively. It seems to have leveled out a little bit. There's a CBR 250R that sold for like $6,300, which is probably market. There was a 78 Mercedes 300D that sold for like $5,000, which is probably market. The weird thing is though is right now there's a 1991 GMC Safari on there,
Hmm.
which is GMC's version of the Chevy Astrovan. And it's got 7 days left, and it's already at $5,100. It seems like that should be half of that money at the end of the auction. But what do I know?
I don't know.
Have you looked at
I'm
this thing
really,
yet?
yeah, I looked at it. It's interesting.
So you don't like this, but you like that Ram 50.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the bed tilts.
I don't understand you sometimes.
I
This
mean, I'm
is
more into the 86 MR2 that's like aqua blue.
yeah, that's too early to tell what's going to happen. It's like $3,600, and
It's cool though. I'm into
it
it.
ends in 7 days. So I'm way into it. The color's awesome. There's actually a show on Netflix right now that I meant to bring up about the Mormon church, I think.
Oh yeah, Stephanie watched it. I didn't watch it though. It's like
So
a murder among Mormons or something.
the main character, the guy who's the bad guy, actually drives that car
Huh.
in that color in the show.
Hmm.
So I spotted it in like they put the preview for it after we watched something else on Netflix, and it was like a drone shot from like 1,000 feet up. And I was like, that was like an MR2, and I'd like pause it and then look at it. And it's, yeah, it's definitely an MR2. And then if I had waited 10 seconds, they show the car up close like later on. I was like, god damn it, that'd have been way easier to see. So
Real aside, like it's kind of like a funny thing. You can tell that's like I can picture the shot right now. It's like the car is driving straight down the street, and what the drone is following it just from behind, directly above head, right?
no, it was parked.
Oh, okay.
No, the car was parked in a parking lot of like a church.
Oh, okay.
And I saw it for some because I don't know, special for some reason. I don't mean that in a positive way. I saw the car. It was like a microscopic thing on the screen. Like I was like, that was like an MR2, and I was all excited to see it was an MR2. And then so I paused it. And I was like, got up and looked at the TV. I was like, yeah, I was right. All right. And then like 10 seconds later, they show it in like they show the guy getting out of the car, and I'm like, oh man, if only I
There's
had
just
been patient and waited.
there's like a really common drone shot now, and I'll explain it. You'll see it all the time now. It's like directly overhead, a little bit behind of the vehicle, following it along a straight road,
Yeah, I can picture
and
that.
it's used in like it's like used so much in shows now.
Like, doesn't Fargo open up like that? The
Probably
TV show.
a bunch of reality shows will do it a lot.
Oh yeah, our
It's
favorite
just
Oak Island does it all the time.
yep. It's super common
Yeah,
shot
they
right
do
now.
it whenever they're driving over the causeway from the
Hmm.
mainland on Oak Island. It does the
Yep.
drone shot from behind the car.
Yeah,
So neat.
but
No, it's not that shot though.
anyway, I get two more here, and then we'll do yours.
Okay.
Getting out of the 80s 90s here into there is a 62 Catalina Sports Coupe 4-speed on BAT,
Ooh, is that a black one?
black on red with 8 lug wheels.
Oh,
It's at 27 grand.
okay. Is it a
Like
tri-power car?
it is.
Okay, so it's a tri-power car with a 4-speed and 8 lug wheels, so it has every option available for that car.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It seems like it was repainted in a different color.
Yeah, I'm
It
gonna try.
wasn't originally black, but I don't care.
I
would
just
drive
found
it.
I just found it. So
It's super pretty.
yeah,
Looks really well restored.
yeah. 389 with a tri-power and a 4-speed is like the car, and then it has the 8 lug wheels on top of it. So that explains the price. I think it might
Which
go a
seems
lot
like
higher than
reasonable
that.
for me.
Yeah, well, it's got 7 days left in the auction too.
Yeah, it should go a lot higher.
But Bring a Trailer is not the place to sell your muscle cars.
This is technically not a muscle car.
I would consider it to be. It's muscle car
It's
era.
early.
Yeah.
It's early. Like a beta muscle car.
And it depends on who you talk to when the first quote unquote muscle car was. Like the first actual muscle car, they'll say, hey, the Pontiac GTO, because it was the mid-size car with the big engine in it. But they also, some people will point back to like, the Oldsmobile Rocket 88s were the first muscle car. They're the first car that was sold on, being fast. And this is after that. So plus it's a tri-power 4-speed with 120 mile an hour speedometer. Like,
Yeah.
you know who this car was being sold to. Like,
Now this verse in Impala, I think this is a prettier car.
it definitely is. It's
The
also
horizontal dual rounds is like really, really good looking on this car.
it's also a cheaper car than the Impala would be.
Yeah.
The
And in
same
coupe,
Impala with 62 would be, was that a 409 or a 348? Whatever the big motor was in 62 in an Impala
I
would
think a
be,
409.
$150,000 for a car in the same
Yeah.
condition.
No, this is
So
a cool car.
yeah, no, I definitely like it. I hadn't even seen this one on Bring a Trailer, so thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly don't have
Super, super
27
awesome.
grand to buy it, but if I did,
No,
I would not hesitate.
no, no. And yeah, mid-60s Pontiacs are really good looking cars.
Yeah, no question. And it's crazy because they're based on the same cars as the Buicks and the Chevys and the Oldsmobiles. They just
Yeah.
the detailing on them is so much better. And then the generation right after this, like your father's generation, with that, I don't know what to call it, the body line that runs through the lower
It's a Coke
door.
bottle. It's a Coke bottle.
And on top of the body line itself, like they call it like a surf line on like a
Yeah.
skyline. So that same body line that just kind of runs down the door and then kicks down at like a 70-degree angle and then back across the lower in the quarter panel. When you have the skirts on there, that look is just, it's a super cool looking car. Like again, a Catalina or a Bonneville of that era, like 65, 67, I think was that body style, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Not super versed on my mid 60s GM, not Chevelles and Camaros.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a cool car. And again, Bring a Trailer is not the right market for this car, I don't think. But
No, be interesting to see what it sells for though. To check back in on it.
hopefully they get what they want, because
Yeah.
I'd hate to see it go too cheap. It's not no reserve though, I don't think so.
No, it's not. Now, speaking of no reserve, there's a 74 Lancia Fulvia.
Mm-hmm.
I say Lancia.
Lancia Fulvia,
Lancia Fulvia. Not an HF.
even though the fenders say it is.
Yeah, because otherwise it'd be all aluminum.
Yep. Which the difference between a non HF and an HF price wise is extraordinary.
Mm-hmm. But it's got 15 hours left and it's only bid to 10 grand.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hell of a cool car if you can get this for under like 15.
Yeah, I think if that's where it's at right now, I don't see it going a ton higher. It will kind of stink if it doesn't for the seller, but at the same time, the car's not perfect. It's a little scruffy around the edges. It's not an HF. It's a 74, so it's a little less desirable than the early cars. It probably didn't used to be blue, so that probably hurts the value a little bit looking at the interior because it has a very green carpet. It's got some questionable wiring underneath.
Yeah.
So you're not.
I see that wire tap there.
Yeah, you're not buying a perfect concourse car by any means.
No, this looks like a
But
really good
at
driver.
the same
though.
time, it's a good base for a driver. There's a dent on the floor pan. There's a little bit of rust inside the trunk, but nothing that's as East Coast car people. I mean, the car is perfect.
Yeah,
For a
this is
West
good,
Coast car, it's not. But this would be a great event car, like something you
this
take.
this is a good vintage car rally car.
Yeah, the Mini Melee or the DWA Sierra rallies and stuff. This is definitely a good car for that.
I'd pull that carpet out, dye it black.
Yep.
Look great.
Yep. Put some POR at any of the rust and never use it in the weather again and not worry about it ever.
No, you can buff that paint out. It looks a little flat, but you can buff it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's probably a cheap paint job, so even another cheap paint job wouldn't be the end of the world to make it shining again if it needed it. So, but yeah, no, I'm way into it. I'd be seriously considering it if I hadn't just bought my Cressida.
I mean, yeah, you swap those the Hellas for like just some Seb Marshals or something.
Yep, a little period correct.
A little more European period. Well, Hella's European, but they're more like
they're modern
German,
Hellas on there.
Yeah, they're more like German, right? So
I mean, you could put them on an Italian car too. It's just if you had Hellas in period, the modern Hellas are a lot flatter. You need something that's got a deeper bucket on the back.
Yeah.
So no, I dig it. I've always liked Fulvias, and I've said it a few times before, probably on the podcast, that if I were looking for an event car, I would skip over the typical Alpha GTVs and stuff, and go to one of these for the same, if or less money than a GTV 2000. And
It's front wheel drive, but
well, whatever.
it's a V4 and it's a 5 speed, so maybe it must be able to do highway speeds.
I don't see why not. I mean, I can do highway speeds in a 4 speed in a Colt, so
Yeah,
I'm sure you can do highway speeds in this. It's just how long do you want to do it for? But I don't know. I'm into it. It fits our aesthetic perfectly. That slightly scruffy, very usable, very vintage rally looking. It's everything we kind of like in a car.
yeah,
So
it's very very cool. It's just a touch more than I could spend. It's pretty cool though. It's definitely that would be a good entry level Italian car.
if you stop buying mid '90s Infinities,
This is true. This is true. Yeah.
I like it. And what are you
Anyway,
gonna
those
do?
are my choices.
There was another one that we've been talking about in our little group chat with a couple of our friends.
Yeah.
We've been guessing on what the price is going to be. It's a 95 Volvo 850 T5R with a five
Oh,
speed.
right. A
Um,
Canadian car,
Canadian car. It's got some miles on it. I think like 200,000 miles.
which is
Um,
nothing for those.
Nothing for those. I think that some of our guesses were between what 10 and 20 grand, basically.
I don't think there's many of them that have under 200K at this point.
Yeah, yeah. We had kind of a Price is Right rules game going with our friends and what it was going to end up at. So there's 17 hours left, and it's at 11 grand. So
Hmm.
not too terrible.
What
It's
did
that yellow color.
by the way, Staring Conquest Market Watch, what did that is it Marina Blue? What did that blue one sell for?
Fiji blue.
Fiji Blue.
Oh, that was huge money. The automatic car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot we should talked about that. That was dumb money. It's a low mile car. Now it's not going to bring it up, of course. $31,777. So
Smoking.
yeah, it's a really good deal. So not a really good deal, a really expensive deal, I should say. It was
Yeah.
17,000 miles, so it's got low miles.
Yeah.
It's
It's
an
basically brand new.
88, which is the 88, 89 are what you really want. They're the more desirable of all the cars. They're the last 2 years. They have all the improvements.
Had it all figured out.
They had it all figured out. Fiji blue is the color everybody wants. Cloth interior is the interior everybody wants. Um, the big negative on this car is that's automatic, but I guess it's not going to be driven anyway, I'm sure. So it doesn't matter to the buyer. They just want the cleanest, nicest example available.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an SHP car. I think it's the only thing it doesn't have. So SHP would be the super handling package. And what SHP got you was wider wheels. They looked the same, but they were 1 inch wider front and rear, and adjustable front and rear shocks. So I think it was just like a stiffness adjustment was pretty much it. It
Yeah.
was 80s technology. It was as fancy as it got. So that was the big changes in the SHP cars. It does not have SHP, so it's got that one less option than they could have had. I don't see a sunroof either, which doesn't hurt the car, I don't think. So it's definitely the high watermark now. I don't think one sold for more than that, have they?
No.
31,777. Yeah,
I don't think so.
that's crazy. I have spent my entire car buying life looking for a cloth interior Conquest or Starion. They're so few and far between. They just don't seem to exist. Everybody opted for leather, and the
Mm-hmm.
cloth seats are just so good because the seats themselves are very comfortable, but leather, especially 30-year-old leather, isn't very grippy, so you slide around a lot. Whereas the cloth seats are very comfortable and you're planted in them, and they just feel much better. So big fan. Wish I could have bought it myself if it was a manual.
Mm-hmm.
But again, what would I do with it? Because I wouldn't be able to drive it. So I used to not like the Fiji blue, but I guess it's grown on me over the years.
Hmm.
It always just seemed to be too bright for the car. But Anyway, neat car. Surprised to see it go for that much, but it did. And here we are.
Anything else?
There are a couple other ones that were on there. There's a 85 Mazda RX-7 on there, which I watched those because of my dad's car.
Yeah.
This one here has 8,000 miles showing, but its total miles unknown. So somewhere
I
along the
think they just
line,
put that all the time.
yeah, but there's
Like
no.
everyone I read, they always put that now.
Do they?
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems it's at $20,000 right now. So
Wow.
it seems almost as nice as my dad's car. It's a little dingier under the hood, um, but it's also a GSL SE, which means it's fuel injected. So it's got a little more desirability than my dad's does. I'm just I'm not positive that it's as nice as his car.
Hmm.
So we'll see. Yeah, there's a few things on there right now I've been watching. Nothing that really you know says buy me right now other than that Fulvia. Um,
Yeah. Right.
I do want to say that I've said it a bunch of times. Don't buy the car that everybody tells you to buy. Buy the car you want to buy. There's tons of fun cars that I was looking at sold cars on BAT. And people
Yeah.
talk about the BAT tax and how expensive cars are on here, but I mean, there's a '69 MGB, which is a chrome bumper roadster with wire wheels, fog lights. Perfect looking car, and it was sold at 10 grand.
Yeah.
There was
That's good.
a 65 Chevy Suburban, which is not a sports car by any means, but a neat like around town cruiser. It's got
Yeah. If you got a family,
yeah, it's super cool. It's lowered on Steelies. It's got a mid '90s LT1 swapped into it, so you can drive it wherever. It sold for 11 grand.
yeah.
It's a cool like flat black and white two tone.
You got
Um,
you got 2 or 3 kids. You want to take them
yeah,
out for ice cream, go to cruise night, throw them in that.
yeah. There's a '72 BMW Bavaria, which is like the Proto 5 Series.
Yeah.
Um, it's scruffy. It's got a mismatched hood. It's got some primer spots. No rust holes, but it's a very good driver. It sold for 10 grand. Like
Hmm.
there's definitely some bargains to be had if you know where you're looking. That SR20 powered Volvo sold for 8 grand.
Oh, right. Yeah, I was gonna bring that up.
Yeah. So there was another a '58 Volvo PV. So the one that looks kind of like a '46 Ford.
Hmm.
Again, a little scruffy around the edges, but a decent interior, decent looking car. Sold for $4,300 for a running driving vintage car on BAT. So again, there's definitely cars to be had out there. So don't let the naysayers say that old cars is for rich people, because they're not. Most people of moderate means could afford to have a fun car if they wanted. So I would definitely rock this B18 powered PV 444. Like that's probably a really fun car to drive, and that would
Hmm.
also be a really cool event car. And you're in it for $5,000, less than $5,000, probably less than 5,500 shipped to your house.
Hmm.
So it's certainly the way to go. But anyway, that's all.
Cool.
Should remind people they can still buy things.
Hey, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention apparently Rally Art's coming back.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Apparently Mitsubishi is. I'm really being a bad Mitsubishi cheerleader right now because I didn't read. They had some financial release. Sounds like they want to make cool cars again. So
They're starting with
we'll
trucks.
see.
Rally Art is starting with trucks. I think that they want to do some more desert racing, which is good because they used to dominate it. So let's have them dominate it again. That would be nice. It'd be nice to be able to be a fan of something that is actually successful. Instead of people ask, why do you care about Mitsubishi? You can be like, this is why I care about Mitsubishi. So I'm
I mean, I'm
excited
all
that Rally
for it. I
Art's
want
coming
to see
back.
it.
I
Um,
like you did not read.
I'm not going to hold my breath because I've been burned before, but I want to see it.
Yeah, well, they released an image of the first one they're doing, and it's a Triton, so it's their pickup truck. So I guess in some markets that'll probably compete with like the TRD.
I mean, I think they need to bring it here, complete with the Tacoma, because the light truck market is so
Light.
goddamn hot
Yeah.
in this country.
Yeah.
Like, how could you not sell a truck like and I don't mean like, I mean like if they brought a truck here, how could it not sell? Like if you priced it 10 grand less than a Tacoma, or even 5 grand less than a Tacoma, or even 2 grand less than a Tacoma, you'd probably still make money on it. You'd still sell them.
Especially if you put that Mitsubishi warranty on it.
Yeah.
You know, and Ford's coming out with a small truck again, calling it the Maverick, which I guess is
I
going
thought
to
it was
be.
going to be the same size as the Ranger.
It's smaller than a Ranger.
Ooh.
So there was a spy shot of it yesterday, and it was in front of one of the new Bronco Sports, which are Escape size.
Yeah. I
It
think they're
was.
good looking.
I do too. Um,
I think they're better looking than Escape.
they're definitely better looking than Escape, but what's not better looking than an Escape? Um, the only thing I don't like about them, I was next to one in traffic, and this is really nitpicky, but it seemed like a super cheap way out. So they have a black rocker cover,
Mm-hmm.
and it has these cutouts in it where it clips in. So the body color is, when you're sitting right next to one and you look directly at it,
Oh, the body color sticks
the
through.
body color sticks through every like 6 inches for a 6 inch wide like swath of like sheet metal. So the one I was next to was a bright yellow one with the black rocker molding, and it had that piece on it, and I was like, ugh, that just looks unfinished. But that's being very nitpicky, and then I just throw some black paint down there for my car. So, but again, I'm not very excited about them because I just don't care, because it's a I don't know, it's just another SUV that's not a real SUV. It's another body on, not body on frame, a unibody truck. But anyway,
Yeah, at least it looks like an SUV.
moving forward, the Maverick is the same thing. It's going to be basically, I don't know, it's based in the same vehicle, but it's going to be a front wheel drive kind of pickup, like a Honda Pilot,
Like that new Honda. No,
or the
sorry,
upcoming
new,
Hyundai
Hyundai thing.
Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
So it's going to be in that market, which is, I'm okay with it again. But I used to like El Caminos and Volkswagen Caddies, and you don't like those, and that's where I think
I don't understand a pickup truck in that size because it's so small. Like a hatchback would be more useful, in my opinion.
possibly. But you also like,
What good is a 4-foot bed?
I don't know,
Or if you
Mister.
can
I want to buy
like,
a Honda Acti. Please tell me.
yeah, because it's like a flatbed and the sides fold down. You can just put stuff on it that are bigger than that.
No.
It's not like a 2-foot or 3-foot bed.
Nonetheless, I don't hate them. I would prefer to have a real truck, but nobody's making a small real truck, so we're stuck with what we're stuck with.
Yeah.
Anyway, rant over.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Sounds like we've had a successful week here with project updates and.
Successful. Do you remember that my car doesn't work?
Oh yeah, sorry,
You've been successful. I've been miserable.
I forgot it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But hey, the Napa guy got to make fun of you or something. I don't know.
He didn't make fun of me. He just tried to sell me parts for 1,000% markup. Probably more than that. Whatever. Like, it probably cost him 6 cents. He wants $9 for it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. So as always, follow us on Off Topic Podcast on Facebook, Off Topic on Instagram. Follow me, Raced in Anger. Brad, where can they follow you?
TSISS350 on Instagram.
All right. Yep. All right. So as always, keep some copper washers on hand
All the time, in case Brad needs them.
and keep cars analog.